Hello, and welcome to the Morecast, the intersectionality of motherhood and entrepreneurship. I am your host, Shon-tay. This episode of the Morecast is entitled Being a Pioneer. The Cambridge Dictionary defines a pioneer as a person who is one of the first people to do something. Ladies, are you acquainted with any pioneers? Are there pioneers in your family? If so, are you one of them? Let's get into being a pioneer. I recently had to go back to one of my own podcast messages to encourage myself. Life had become demanding, and I needed a boost or a quick pick-me-up. When you become an entrepreneur, people often look at your product or service and make assumptions about how well you are performing. On one hand, that's great because it means your advertisement is working. That's what you want them to see. But they can't imagine the struggle or the warfare that accompanies the creation, production, or even the advertisement for a new product or service. And it's even more complicated when you've never seen entrepreneurship modeled, or if you've not seen it modeled correctly. There's so many nuances to business, and sometimes there's no one to speak to you about the challenges or the issues. Many years ago, someone called me a pioneer. After I heard that statement, I had 3 different responses. Initially, I said to her, okay, as in, I hear you, but I didn't give much thought to it because I was leading a retreat at the time and all of my attention was concentrated on the task at hand. Later, as I pondered what she said, I thought, a pioneer, a trailblazer, I guess. Thinking, is she complimenting me? Because I never saw myself as a trailblazer or a pioneer. After much time had passed, and I really took into account all that I had done and the assignment over my life, I realized that it was a word to give me some clarity about why my life had so many shifts and changes. When she spoke the word pioneer or trailblazer, I wasn't initially sure what she was trying to convey because she didn't know all that I had been doing. In my head, I was just walking in obedience to the things I heard in prayer. I had no idea she was giving me some level of understanding for my experiences and also providing me with identity. Many times people have asked me what I was doing, asking for clarity, asking for a name for it. And my response was, I don't know. I'm just being obedient to what I hear from God. I didn't have a name for it. I didn't have a title or a frame of reference for it. But as my life took another turn, I realized that her words were not flattering. But God was using her to identify the place I was in. When she spoke this word pioneer, God was sending me clarity about what I had been doing. When I realized this, I did not ask him because I accepted what he said by faith, knowing that he knows my end from my beginning. But I should have asked for more clarity. When she said that, I got a visual in my mind. So, the picture that came to my mind of a pioneer was the images that I had seen in television and movies. Although I'd read about pioneers, those stories didn't come to mind. I'm a very visual person, and so the image of Hollywood's pioneers came to mind. Now, I know that in Hollywood, the image is prettied up, if I can make up a word. But it's evident in being a pioneer that it comes with genuine challenges. They just weren't expressed in Hollywood's lenses. What I should have envisioned was based on the stories that I'd read. Then I would have fully processed what she was saying, and I would have anticipated or fully examined the challenges that were ahead. They say hindsight is 20/20, and it's true. Another definition for pioneer is a person who is among the first to explore or settle a new country or area. If I am truly a pioneer, then along with exploring or establishing new territory comes the challenges of advancing to locations that have never been occupied or inhabited before. While excelling or advancing naturally, that individual has to deal with the pushback of nature or wildlife. If excelling spiritually, that individual has to deal with the pushback in the spirit realm. Regardless of the terrain, it can be equally challenging. This word pioneer or trailblazer was a blessing to me then, but a warning to be prepared for the pushback that came with the blessing. I am certain that I am not the only one who can lay claim to this word pioneer or trailblazer. My objective is not to discourage anyone from becoming an entrepreneur. Instead, I prefer to share a clear, sober perspective. Again, a pioneer is someone who is moving, operating, or building in uncharted territory. That territory can be personally, professionally, or spiritually. This movement or transition changes a familiar line, meaning they are changing the trajectory of their lineage. As such, the individual will have both good and not so good days. And during those not so good days, you must learn to lean in a little closer to God. Hear His instructions and counsel, as well as trust Him to strengthen and hold you up in the process. During the challenging times, you might have to go back, as I did, and give yourself a boost. That boost may come from God's Word, from someone else, or even something you have written or spoken before. If you identify with the word pioneer and you are feeling the weight, W-E-I-G-H-T, or the weight, W-A-I-T, of that today, go back and rehearse the instructions, the victories, or even what you have said to encourage yourself or someone else. Just don't give up, but keep building. Because a true pioneer has to finish what he or she has begun. Need some encouragement? Tune in to Test and Testimonies Friday nights at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time live on Instagram. Test and Testimonies will have you on the edge of your seat as you witness women sharing their trials and their triumphs. Test and Testimonies Friday nights on Instagram at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time at Talk Like God. You won't be disappointed, but you will definitely be encouraged. Thanks for tuning into this episode of the Morecast entitled Being a Pioneer. If you identify with today's episode, remember, a pioneer is not just exploring and advancing, With the advancement, there will most assuredly be challenges. I encourage you to be prepared. Anticipate the rough terrain. When the blessing comes, don't think blessings come without challenges because it simply is not true. So lean in a little closer to God's presence. Allow Him to guide you through His Word and the words He has spoken to you about where you are going, what you're building, and how He's going to use you. If you enjoyed this episode of the Morecast, please share with a friend. Connect with me here or drop a line on Twitter at the Morecast. And don't forget, you're always welcome to become a supporter. Until next time.